That was a surrender. That I wish I had done the homework. I can't. When Robert E. Lee, where did he surrender at? Appomattox or what? Did I? I just screwed that up. That's what that was. Excuse me? Where did he surrender? Appomattox Courthouse. My memory is that good. My memory and my history is that good. That's what that was. That was Robert E. Lee, a rebel, Shane Gillis, doing the surrender deal for the whole woke culture at Disney. I mean, when I saw that, when I saw those clips circulating on social media, I was like, we won. We popped woke culture. You get that? Popped woke culture. We won. And when I say we, I'm including myself, and I'm going to include people that, you know, I got mixed feelings about for sure. But I literally did think about Clay Travis and Outkick. And like people that have been on the front lines the entire time when there was a price to pay for being politically incorrect and for standing your ground. You got to tip your hat to Clay Travis and Outkick. You got to tip your hat to Riley Gaines, the swimmer. You got to tip your hat to Pat McAfee. And I know he's over the edge, but he's not woke. And you got to tip your hat to Dave Portnoy, as I already have. These are what I'm calling my Purple Heart people of the woke culture, the popping of the woke culture movement. And we have to celebrate this. We can't sit around, I can't, and be cynical and act like we're not making real progress in this culture war. And so I think about Bobby Burack, who works for Outkick and stands his ground. I think about Sage Steele that lost her job at ESPN because she wouldn't back down. I think about Michelle Tafoya that left NBC Sports and Sunday Night Football to get into podcast lane so she could speak her mind. I think about Harrison Butker, the kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs, that went to a Catholic university and spoke Catholic truths to a bunch of other Catholics and took all kinds of hell. I think about Antonio Brown. Yes, I know he's wanted right now for attempted murder. Yes, I know he's apparently fled the country. But whoever's been running AB's Twitter feed, hats off to you, hats off to AB, hats off to all of these people that stood their ground and help us win this part of the culture war. And so and look, did it take 10 years? Yes, it took 10 years. But this is why you never give up. Because even if it takes 10 years, it's well worth it. And I hope that you will be inspired by the progress, the obvious progress, that Disney, a grooming institution, the headquarters for the alphabet mafia, they had to wave the white flag. Oh, okay, Shane Gillis, come on up here. Crack lesbian jokes, crack LGBTQ insensitive jokes, crack jokes about these black queens and them beating up Caitlin Clark. Crack whatever joke you want, Shane. We have to surrender. This is what victory looks like, tastes like, is, and we have to celebrate it because it's inspiration. It's an indication that we should continue the fight and we should switch targets. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. But I do want, I do want to talk about just a tiny bit negative about some of the turncoats that I'm calling them. People that should have stayed in the fight with the rest of us. But they felt like they couldn't go the Pat McAfee route. They couldn't go the Clay Travis route. Because Clay Travis and Pat McAfee, they got big checks. Even though they fought against this woke culture. They got big checks. You didn't have to sell out. You didn't have to be a turncoat to get a big check. You needed a pair of balls to stand your ground, and they did it. But here's some people that didn't, and I'm going to say up front, there's a couple of guys on this list that I like and that I respect. I have to say that. But I also have to say they sold out. So here's my list of turncoats. Dan Le Batard. And, you know, Dan Le Batard used to be my best friend in the sports media. I still, know Dan's entire family, knew his brother that passed away. You know, I still have warm feelings for Dan Le Batard, but I just don't trust him because he's a turncoat. This is a guy that years ago got in trouble for writing a column that basically said that Patrick Ewing was a gorilla or a monkey or looked like one or something like that. And now he's a guy that is complaining about Shane Gillis cracking WNBA jokes. Now he's a guy surrounded by a bunch of woke little kids that want to point their finger, oh, you can't crack jokes, you got it. Dan Le Batard, turncoat, and I like Dan. Or I have warm memories of my friendship with Dan. Bill Simmons is my favorite sports columnist of all time, but he's a turncoat. But Bill Simmons used to write the funniest stuff in sports media that I didn't write. My favorite sports columnist of all time, I laugh out loud, used to write things and have a little gimmick about guess who's a WNBA player and guess who's an NBA player, and he'd put pictures up side by side, and you couldn't tell who was the WNBA player and who was the NBA player. Now, to get that Grantland money or the Ringer money or whatever, Bill Simmons, very politically correct or very quiet on this front, tends to avoid it. He's kind of like Jimmy Kimmel that was on The Man Show, and the next thing you know, Jimmy Kimmel is one of the most woke, politically correct people in all the media. I have very warm feelings towards Bill Simmons, and my memories of his politically incorrect and very, very provocative, ahead of the curve, informative columns, someone that I respect. The next person, Skip Bayless, sellout, turncoat, in my opinion. I don't know anybody else in the sports media that has kissed, and I'm just going to keep it real, guys, has kissed more black butt than Skip Bayless, has shoved his head up the rear end of any and everything black, trying to protect himself from criticism because he used to criticize LeBron James. Running around pretending like him and Lil Wayne are BFF, running around with a little gold chain and the Air Jordan shoes. The man's 70-some-odd years old. Turncoat. Next guy I got a lot of respect for, former co-worker, still does some good stuff from time to time, but Cowherd basically stayed on the porch during this entire war and would pretend to be woke. You know, he's one of these guys that, I'm a fiscal conservative, but I'm a social liberal. And my best friend is Bill Romanowski, but I'm telling you, I like Cowherd. I like what he does from time to time. Because now that the wind is blowing the other direction, he's aware that the wind is blowing the other direction. We're about to see the real Colin Cowherd again from time to time. But I got to call him a turncoat. Sorry, Colin.